The fact that we are literally working side by side with extraterrestrials. Some of our government laboratories, we have ETs working alongside of our scientists.
Who are those two races? What are they? Do you know?
Well, one of them is the group that met Eisenhower at Muroc in '54. And the stories that I've gotten that I trust from people and sources that I have a respect in is that the gang that met Eisenhower at Muroc, which is now Edwards,
yes,
we'll describe them as the original Anunnaki. And that's a generic term, Mel. Anunnaki.
Oh, I know the term, sure.
Anunnaki is a term simply meaning those who came down from above.
According to Zachariah Sitchin, yes.
Yeah, well, that's a Sumerian term. It goes back to ancient Sumer. But the Anunnaki, the ones that had a hand originally in re-engineering us as a species, genetically upgrading us, as it were, the guys that have been in our midst from the beginning, were the ones that met Ike, and apparently we have an ongoing and continuing relationship with them. The other group is kind of interesting. They physically look a little bit different than the Anunnaki. They're the ones that have been described as the Nordics, the tall blondes. And so we have a relationship with both of them. Now
where are the Greys in all of this?
I'm sorry?
Where are the Greys in all of this?
Oh, the Greys are another matter entirely. Now, when we're talking about Greys, we got to be careful here about whether we're talking about a species or a laboratory product. A lot of the little Greys, a lot of those little dudes that everybody has seen, or quite a few people have seen, are not a species or a race unto themselves. When we've retrieved their bodies in crisis, and we've retrieved numbers of them, I don't mean just Roswell. I'm talking about Kingman. I'm talking about off the coast of San Diego. I'm talking about crashes in Missouri, crashes all over the world. We're talking about little guys who appear to be laboratory products because in several cases they were found to be absolutely identical. And under the autopsies, they were found to not have apparently a reproductive capability, that they did not seem to have, the functions that developed species or a race would have.
So cloned biodrones or biorobots.
Well, yeah, biological androids, I guess, is a term I've heard used. So many of the crashes involved the retrieval of those guys, including a couple of them that we kept alive for a very long time at Wright-Patterson and at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. And they don't seem to have quite the ability to communicate like some of the others do. Mm-hmm. They apparently are created in a laboratory. They are programmed for a function, and they go out and they do what they've been programmed to do. And beyond that, that's it. But they're pretty damn sophisticated. Incredibly sophisticated, actually. To give you some idea, that may be the future of artificial intelligence here in our world.
Well, if the supercomputers of now, I believe it can do, I believe, 213 trillion bots per second, and that's us humans. Imagine what a more advanced civilization can do.
Well, try to consider what a civilization. Look, good Lord, man, let's consider this. Not only 10,000 years ahead of us, but
a million.
Consider that there are intelligences out there that could be 1 million years ahead of us. And some of the technology we have discovered in our solar system and in orbit around our planet and on the moon and on Mars, we're talking about a Type 2 civilization, Mel. Are you familiar with Michio Kaku's...
Absolutely. We're still at Type 0. Yes, absolutely.
We're 0, yes.
Yes.
We're getting close, maybe if we're lucky, in another 10, 15, 20 years, we might really become a type 1 civilization. But some of these civilizations out there, Mel, are so far beyond us that we simply cannot grasp who they are and how they think, and the whole technology of the world that they have created for themselves. When you look at a race or intelligence that literally could be 1,000,000 years ahead of you, it's almost stupefying to try to consider that. When I speak publicly lately, I've been giving out photographs. I've been showing photographs, and I've been giving out copies over at San Jose.
Yes.
I received copies from the Japanese Space Agency of pictures taken by Apollo 13 on the way to the moon. And in those 2 photographs that I distribute, there is a spacecraft 5 miles long that followed Apollo 13 all the way to the moon, all the way around, and all the way back. Now, 5 miles long, Mel. Think about that. Think about the technology that can not only construct something like that, but put it in orbit and man it with a crew. Apollo 13, that's the one that had the accident, because the accident was not an accident, Mel. That Apollo 13, and this has come out repeatedly by people who were there, a brilliant French scientist by the name of Maurice Chatelain. Now, Maurice was the genius who created, established, constructed the entire communication system for Apollo, for the entire Apollo series. Now, Maurice Chatelain was present during all of the launches and during all of the flights and all of the retrievals. And before he died, he published information that Apollo 13 carried a small-yield nuclear device that they planned to place on the moon and detonate after they had left. Now, the guys who were on the moon, the advanced intelligent extraterrestrial intelligence, says, no, you're not. You're not going to do that. So on the way, Apollo 13 had a little accident. An oxygen tank blew up. And from the story that we all know about, they were barely able to make it to the moon, around the moon, and they barely made it home. Well, what has not been told, and probably won't be for a long, long time, is that they were monitored and followed closely all the way to the moon and all the way back. And these 2 Apollo 13 photographs that I obtained from the Japanese Space Agency points out, these guys are out there. And Apollo 13 took pictures of them. And this one object is 5 miles long. And so I use that as an example of, consider a technology that can put a spacecraft in orbit and man it with a crew. But according to Maurice Chatelain, he figured that explosion of the oxygen tank was not an accident. It was probably engineered by the guys out there, the ETs, as it were. And who the hell got stupid enough to want to detonate a nuclear device on the moon?
Well, and I know we have to take a break because I want you to have some water and take a little break. But on the way back, I want to ask you a few questions. I want to continue this conversation about the moon because you know what's going to happen on October the 9th. The payload left Earth last week. The bombing of the moon on October the 9th. You know what I'm referring to, the La Crosse.
I know what you're referring to.
And I want to hear your take on this. Also, I want to talk about Dulce Underground Base, Phil Schneider. I want to know if you agree with his story. And also, the National Guard website a few weeks ago posted employment, internment relocation specialists. Why is the National Guard recruiting internment relocation specialists? Someone I know contacted the National Guard and they simply said, oh, those are simply prison guards. So, don't go anywhere. We're here with Mr. Robert Dean. This is Mel Fabregas from the Veritas Show. We'll be right back. Thank you very much for listening. we're going to talk more with our special guest in our members section. Head on over to our website, veritasshow.com, click on subscribe, and join us in the members area to tune in to the second part of this great show. We'll take a short break, listen to some music, and we'll be right back with more.
At the first day, everyone pointed to his country. At the third or fourth day, everyone pointed to his continent. Since the fifth day, we don't even mind the continents. We just see the Earth as a whole planet.